Okay, this is part 2 of how to make your own remote choir video at home. And I was talking about on the last video and a couple trainings that the best way to do it is to just practice with yourself, just doing a very short song. For this example, I did the first phrase of Itsy Bitsy Spider. And I did them all on my phone. I emailed them to myself. I downloaded the attachment and I made a folder on my desktop. I dumped them all into this folder. So I have Spider Guitar, Spider Low Harmony, Spider Melody, Spider Piano, Spider Tambourine. So those are all of my movies. Did on my phone, and once again, you want to check your phone settings to see. I like usually the default is 1080 and 30 frames per second, so that's going to be high def, and it's going to look pretty decent. So if I just click on one of these, let's go to guitar, double click. Okay, so the newer phones have you can make better videos than this, but this is going to be okay for our purposes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Final Cut, and if you just downloaded it, it'll probably look like this. Has nothing on it whatsoever. Now let's look up here. From last time, this is your library. This is going to be your big folder. So you could call it, I don't know, April videos or remote videos. I'm going to call this remote tutorial kid. So if I do another one of these, I'll put it into this library. Now, don't worry about smart collections. Get into that later if you'd like. But Final Cut will make an event folder for you by default, and it's just going to call it whatever today's date is. I'm going to change that to, I'm going to click on it twice to get to highlight it. I'm going to change it to Itsy. This is my event. Now, I have nothing imported yet. You can do this in couple different ways. You can click on Import Media, and you can go to here, and you can go and find your folder. I don't like to do it like this. You can actually go to Desktop, click on it, and you can do it like that. Or, let me clear this out, you can just do them one at a time, or if you have that one selected, hold down Shift, click the bottom one, click and drag all 5 of these to my import media. Notice the very top, that pie starts to fill in. And each of these clips is about 10 seconds long. So notice it hardly takes any time for this to import. Now when you do your longer song, it's going to take longer. Anyway, all right, so let's take a look at it. I always recommend naming your clips too. Now you can name it in your folder. Just tap on once, tap on twice, and name it there. Or you can name it here and just tap once and rename it. And we'll talk about the inspector in a second. But let's talk about how Final Cut shows it to you. You can expand this clip if you want it to be kind of spread out more. You're not making the actual playing longer because it is what it is. It is the video you shot. But if you want to kind of see, and when you're skimming, it skims slower rather than faster, you go up to this clip appearance. It looks like a little roll of film. Click on it, and you can decide how much or how little. So if I go like this and I just go all, kind of a bad click away. It's a pretty bad way to do it. But done, done. If I go to maybe here, you'll see them starting to open up a little bit. Click away. Just kind of makes it, spreads them out a little bit better. Easier for editing, I think. Another cool thing you can do, and we'll talk about these different windows, but let's say you want to see more of this area, and it's just go right on the split where you get this icon, and you can click, make it bigger, Go here. Okay, but okay, well, we can leave it like that. All right. So notice I'm seeing whatever I have clicked on in this window here. And let's take a look at this area here now. So on my guitar track, if I go over to Info in the inspector, you'll see the name, a bunch of like codec weird stuff, don't worry about that. You'll see how it was shot, and other, if you scroll down, other info. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the piano, and I want that to be my first one that I click and drag in to my project. Your project is down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a project. I'm going to click on there. Of course, you could go up to File, New, Project if you'd like. I'll click on here. I'm going to call it Itsy. And you could usually leave it where video, it's set based on first video clip properties. Now, since I recorded all of these with my phone, that's going to be fine. But if you are using different cameras, or kids are doing it on different cameras, you might want to use custom settings. And this is a pretty good default one. But you can look online for their recommendations. But I would just leave it video set based on first clip properties. And I'll hit OK. And it just made my project. Notice nothing's on there. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to my piano part. I click back on it. You can kind of skim and drag. Remember, opening it up makes the skimming a lot better than if it's too short. Go to the beginning. I'm going to press play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's all I recorded. So I want to actually import after the. No, I'm going to import this whole thing. Okay. I'm going to drag it. When I say import, I mean dump it down into my project. Okay. There's several ways you can do that. You can click and drag it down, or you can use this icon here, which is append the selected clip to the primary storyline or the selected storyline. Now, there is no primary storyline yet. Your first clip that you drag down will become your primary storyline. So I'm going to click and make sure it's highlighted in yellow. You can click and drag, or I'm going to use this little shortcut. And notice it says the video properties of this clip are not standard. This is what Final Cut is recommending is going to be the best resolution for this clip. I usually just go with their recommendations, so I'm going to hit OK. There it goes. It dumps down. Now it's going to take Final Cut a little bit of time to process. See that wheel in the top left? It's just okay. There's little dotted lines that you saw there. That means Final Cut is processing that video. Now it's super short. It's going to be very hard to edit. So just like up here where you could stretch it out and see more, you can do that down here as well. And that's going to be right over here. If you click on this little film roll, just like before, you can make it bigger, smaller. You can adjust the height of it. It's not changing the actual video, it's just changing the appearance. Click on this. A good shortcut to know is Command plus and minus will stretch it or zoom it in or zoom it out. So I'm gonna, since it's so short, it'd be good to be able to see the whole thing. Okay, so let's give it a listen. Now you can click and drag this timeline to the beginning, or function, hold down the function button, and arrow to the left brings it back. If you have a numeric pad, home will bring it back as well. Return doesn't do anything. Okay, here. So function, arrow left to bring back to the beginning. Spacebar plays your project. Remember, this is the project. These are all your clips. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the guitar. And I only want it to bring, I'm going to bring in on the second 1, 2, 3, 4, and hopefully I count it. So I go up here, and I actually click on it, so it's yellow. It's important to click on it. Click on again at the beginning.
1, 2, 3.
So I actually didn't count the first 4, I just counted the second measure 1, 2, 3. So I want to bring it in right there. Play. So I'm about to say it. So in order to just bring in that part, you're going to use the letter I on your keypad. Now notice what happens up here when you do the I. You notice I stopped it right there. It's that little thin line right there. I hit I. So now it's shortened to yellow. Now when I click and drag and bring this down, it's only going to bring down this part. Now watch what happens if you click this button. It's going to attach it to the end, and you don't want that. This will work here. Connect the selected clip to the primary storyline. Now what you want to do is you want to drag your timeline to exactly where it's going to drop in. Note, remember, I cut it, I edited it, so it's only going to, so I stopped it right before I counted that second 1, 2, 3. Let's find where that is here.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right there. So if I select it, I can hit this, or you can click and drag. I'll use this button. Now let's take a look at it. It's going to sound. Let's let Final Cut process it. All right, let's give it a listen.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Way off. Okay, this is where that 1, 2, 3 is in my guitar. Here's the 1, 2, 3 here. So you can click, you can drag it. This is where that command plus and minus really comes in handy. I'm going to open it up so I can really see where it is. Notice my one in this one in the guitar and this one in the piano. The one in the guitar is late, so I'm going to click and drag. A really handy shortcut here is called nudging it. And the nudge buttons are the comma and the period. So by comma, it nudges it one to the left, the smallest increment possible. Period to the right, left, right. So I'm going to go as close as I can get it. That looks pretty spot on. I'm going to hold down Command and minus. Okay. And let's give it a listen.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Pretty good. I'm going to do that with the tambourine. Now I don't want to, remember, this is your main clip, the piano. I don't want to see the guitar anymore. There's several things you can do. If you command click or double finger click on that, you can disable it. It's basically like just muting it. It's still there, but you're not going to see it. And I'm going to go up to wherever the tambourine is. I click on it to make sure I have that clip activated. Hit spacebar.
One, 2, 3.
I hit the I right before I knew I was about to say 1, 2, 3, 4. This time I'm going to use the click and drag technique. Now you can click and drag it, and you can go underneath like that, and it'll go. Make sure you don't go over a clip because it'll overwrite it. I'm going to try to get it pretty close. All right. Let Final Cut process. See those little lines right here? Give it a second. You also see the pie in the upper left. All right, so it's processed. I'm just going to, remember, if you click up here in your ruler, it moves that timeline around, or you can just click and drag it. I hold down Command, and the plus opens it up. You can see that this one, and I'm sliding back and forth using 2 fingers on my pad. Okay. And I'm going to try to get as close as possible. You can make it bring some of the footage back in by going to the left of it, clicking and dragging, and just play around with that. It looks like it's a little early, so I'm going to click on the clip. I'm going to press the period button to nudge it. I might have said command period, but that's wrong. It's just, you don't have to do command. It's just a period and comma, nudges it back and forth, period or comma. Let's give it a listen.
4, 1, 2.
Now, notice you can see both now because I shot the tambourine vertically. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's disable. Let's look at the, what do I have? Let's look at the melody. Click on it, press spacebar.
1, 2, 3.
The I button. I'm going to click. This time I'm going to just bring the timeline right to that where that 1, 2, 3 is. And I'm going to click, make sure it's highlighted. I'm going to use this one. Notice I put it on the top. We're going to talk about top, middle, bottom in a second. But I actually like it to be right above my primary storyline. Yeah, just be careful there. I'm using 2 fingers to slide around, left, right, up and down on my trackpad. Looks like it's a little early. I'm going to use the period button. Let's give it a listen.
4, 1.
Good enough. All right, I'm going to disable it. Notice the shortcut there is just V. And here's my last one. There's actually 5 clips.
1, 2.
Okay, bring it down. Right above. Way early. Period button, period button. It's pretty good. Remember, you can hold that command plus minus to open it up. And remember, you could always click at the very edge of it, click and hold, and you can drag. Note, even if you brought in this area here, it's still available for you to open up more than you actually selected up there. Just play around with that, you'll figure that out. Period.
1, 2.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to start moving stuff around. And to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink the piano part. And what I do for that is I go over to the this area, which is called the inspector. And we don't need to see these clips anymore. So to clean up your screen, I'm going to get rid of that. So you don't need to see it. I'm going to hide the browser. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the inspector. Here, this one is actually, this is called the video inspector, color inspector, audio inspector, and the info inspector. The video, you're actually, this is where you're going to resize things. So make sure it's selected, and we talked about this last video, but I use the scale all a lot. Okay, right around here, and then to position it, click on this button here, which is called transform. I click on it, click in the middle. I can move it around. I'm going to put it right down here. I hit done. Always hit done. Always make sure this is not blue anymore because you'll run into problems. Done. Now I don't really need the wood here of the piano, so I'm going to trim that. I'm going to crop it from the right. I'm going to get rid of some of that. See, it's moving, moving, moving. Okay. Now, the next is my god-awful low harmony. First thing I can tell is that, we really don't need this up here. So I'm going to crop the top, make it a little smaller, click this button, and I'm going to move it over here. This is fine, right here. And then done. Or you can click on that again. All right, I'm going to enable, which is, remember, it's V. That's flattering. Okay, I'm going to trim the top. going to make this one a little smaller. I'll put this, I'll make this a little bigger. Hello. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to move this over. I'm going to enable, get rid of that. I'm going to enable tambourine. Now notice if it's on top, it'll go over anything that's underneath it. Just remember that. See, this clip is on top of the tambourine and the low harmony and the piano. That's why moving it around will help you if you need to. So I'm going to trim this, the top, bottom. I'm going to move this over here. So when I come together, done. And then what's the last one? The guitar enable, V. I'll make this a lot smaller. Trim it from the right, left, top. And I'll position it right here. Done. Okay. Let Final Cut process. Upper left, you'll see the pie filling. All right, let's give it a listen.
1, 2, 3.
All right, so now let's talk about cleaning it up a little bit. And we can go back to the beginning by doing function, left arrow, and I'm scrolling down. Now this piano part started a lot earlier than all the other parts. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I clicked here on the ruler. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Remember, that's your command minus. You can also go to here, and it's right here to bring it in. I'm going to try to see the entire song on my screen. And you can't see all the clips. That's why this will help. Go back to that film icon, and you can make them a little bit smaller and scroll up. So now I can see everything. And of course you can go to here, you can move this up a little bit too. Okay. All right, so all this is garbage right here. I kind of wanted to come in on beat 4 of the second measure.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Right here. Okay, now this is the dangerous part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this arrow to the blade tool. And to change tools, you can go here. Today we're only going to talk about blade and select. The shortcut is going to be B, but I'm going to hit the blade tool. I'm going to cut. And I'm going to hit A, get my selector back, and I'm going to go here. And I'm going to hit delete. Now watch what happens. Bad. I just lost everything, and I'll show you why in a second. Don't be afraid of edit, undo. Apple Z is going to be your friend. Apple Z. Everything came back. You can tell, you can look very closely, all of these clips were brought in right here on the piano. Remember, your piano is your primary storyline. That's where you brought your clips in. So to do it the right way, what I recommend is using this trim button. Going to the left of each track, clicking and dragging, and it will snap to right where you cut. That's what this does. Where is it? That's skimming. You can play around with that. But snapping will help you a lot. So rather than cutting, I would recommend using snapping. Notice it's connecting it now to here. So now if you select this part and hit delete, you don't lose everything. That was pretty tricky, but just play around with that. Let's go to the end and do the same thing. I want everything to end right here. I'm not even going to use the blade. I'm going to leave the timeline selected there. I'm going to go to the right, click and drag, will snap in. snap, 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 and snap. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Function left. Tambourine is a little loud, so my tambourine is right here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can just see it a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to bring it down, click on the volume. I'm going to tweak it, bring it down a little bit. Now since the guitar looks like it's coming on the right and the piano's on the left, I'm going to pan it, which means I'm going to make it sound like it's coming from more of the right side of the speakers, and the piano's going to sound like it's coming from more of the left. So I click on the guitar, where is it? Right here. I go up to the audio inspector. I scroll down 2 fingers, or you can just click here and scroll up and down. I go where it says pan. Right now there's no panning. Click on here, stereo left, right, and then I'm going to pan it really hard to the right, all the way over to the right. And I go to the piano. Now, this isn't really good panning, but just to teach you guys, that's what I'm going to do. Explain it. All right, all the way to the left. So I recommend listening to this on headphones. Function left arrow. Now, if we did this right, the piano should sound like it's coming out of your left speaker only, because I did a hard pan to the left, and the guitar should sound like it's coming out of your right speaker or headphone. You should be wearing headphones. Okay, let's go to listen. Good. Now I'm going to pan my melody, click on stereo left to right, slightly to the left, and my bass harmony slightly to the right, which is just going to sound a lot better. It's going to spread out the mix a little bit more. Back to the beginning, function left. Good. Now I'm going to add a fade to the end of this. And I click at the very end, I just clicked on it, and to create a fade, it's Command T. And I'm going to click and make it a little bit bigger, and there's all these different kind of fades. You can play with those. Now when you make a fade on a clip that's attached to your primary storyline, it's now going to be fixed to it. It's not going to move when you're shifting it around. It'll snap right back. Whoops. And there's a way to do that. We'll talk about that in a different video. But for this fade, remember you click on the right, do Command T. Now I'm going to make them all around the same length. You'll notice this gray box is going around, basically indicating that these are now attached to that primary storyline, which was your piano. This fade is probably too much. Let's give it a listen. Good. Let it process. And you can do a fade at the beginning if you want, a fade in. I'm not going to. If you want, let's say the guitar looks a little dark, you can click on this clip, go up to the color inspector. There's your exposure, all these different exposures. Just use the main one for now. Okay, going the wrong way. Okay, you can kind of fiddle with that. You can go to color. You can do weird things. I'm not going to even worry about that. Saturation, black and white. Yeah, let's do black and white. That'll be cool just for that one. Not cool, but that just to show you guys how that works. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Function left. All right, now file, share. I usually like to do it, my default for sharing things, under settings, video, audio. I like this. This is basically how it's compressed. Don't just think of it this way. You don't need a gigantic, huge, high quality file when you're sending these videos out. H.264 is going to make it easier to send out and it's still going to be at good quality. For example, this is only 9.1 megabytes. You could actually email that. If you go up to like Apple ProRes 444 for XQ, which is really high quality, look at the size. Jumps up. You won't be able to email that. You're not going to be able to email hardly any of these, but at least this one you could email if you wanted to. So go here, go back to info, final, next. I want to go to my desktop, save, processes, upper left-hand corner. It's not going to take very long to process. Close, quit Final Cut. You don't need to save, it saves it automatically. And here's my finished movie ready to send out to the world.
Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout.
Okay, we'll do another one of these next week, but hopefully this will get you started. Thanks.